That's why a person's statement, well, I don't like Trump, his character. What does character have to do with it? The only time character really counts, right, is if the guy's going to cheat and be corrupt because of that character. Well, then he won't be competent, right? Because he's going to cheat, right? And it's all about bribery and so on. You see? But other than that, okay, so he is, he brags, or whatever you think he does. What does that have to do with his job? That's the key, you see? Now, well, let's take a look. That's the mistake that everybody's making. But okay, so you made the mistake. Wrong. Because if you vote for somebody that you should realize is incompetent, and that will destroy your ability to advance and flourish, that means that you will have been creating untold suffering for millions of people. Millions of people. Because especially if it's for a president. It's like when they voted for Hitler, right? It wasn't, well, I cast my vote for Hitler, big deal. What are you talking about? Because you were part of the group that cast your vote for Hitler, 56 million people died. You have any idea and they didn't just die. They died savagely. And you are held accountable to whatever degree God realizes or knows that you're a cause. Of course, it's based on justice. So it obviously has to be proportionate to the level of causality and so on. Let's take a look based on what I'm saying. Remember, elections are very dangerous because if God says to you, how do you vote for this guy when you knew that he would cause incredible suffering to people? What are you going to answer? You see? So what are you going to say? Well, because the guy looked like a nice guy. So God is going to say, nice guy? Who cares? The job of what he was running for required tremendous knowledge and skill of being effective as a leader, right? And as a president. That was your responsibility. So how do you go and vote for a guy with an asset that has nothing to do with his job? Since you knew what he was. Well, what are you going to answer? Bad news. Because if you vote for the wrong guy and you knew the idea that it's because you hate the competent guy, you are in big trouble. And that's what I'm here to warn you. Because you will have created untold suffering, not only for yourself and for your family, but for the entire United States. Well, let me get real. Let me show you what I mean. It's very important to understand what the repercussions are, what the consequences are in this election. Okay, let's take a look first at Biden, then at Harris. Well, I don't know much about Biden. He deceived us all because he ran from his basement. Did he? Okay, so maybe you could say, but many people, or I think most people, the reason why they voted for Biden, because they hate Trump. There you go. It's the character that determined their vote, not the competence. Why? How do we know? Because Trump was president for 4 years before Biden, and he did a great job. Everybody knows that. Those are facts. Can't argue with the facts. Okay, and just because you hate the guy for whatever reason, that doesn't justify voting for a guy that basically, what did he do? What did Biden do? And not only that, look at what he did when you did vote for him. Let me show you the suffering that this man has created with 330 million Americans. Let me show you. 1, illegal immigrants. You want to understand what that means? It's not just that he allows people unvetted illegally to enter the United States. Do you know that that is treason? I think it's treason. It's unconstitutional. He is breaking the law. You're not allowed to do that. The Constitution requires a legal entry. So how can you, as a president who's sworn in to uphold the Constitution, violate that document? You're a criminal. In fact, I think it borders on, if not outright, it's treason, as I will show you. So that's the first idea, you see, in terms of what he's done, right? So it's a constitutional crime for which he should have been impeached a long time ago. That's number 1. Number 2, do you know what's going on in the border? Slavery, human trafficking, right? Do you know how many people are being kidnapped by the cartels and by Americans to be slaves? Okay. Why? Because of illegal entry. But who's responsible for that? Biden. Not only that, what about sex crimes? You know how many people are used and abused for that, right? You have any idea what it means for a 10-year-old kid to be a sex object by somebody because of somebody who came into the United States illegally? You have any idea the suffering that goes on, right? Did you know that 325,000 kids are missing? It's not my statistics. This is what they're saying. 325,000 kids are missing. Yeah, because they're all being sold as slaves of some sort. You see, who's responsible for that suffering? You see, and what about fentanyl? There's a mass, input in the United States of fentanyl. It's in all the cities. I mean, it doesn't take much to get the statistics. Just look it up on the internet. Fentanyl is all over. 150,000 American citizens die from fentanyl that has come in from Mexico and ultimately from China. But wait a minute, who is responsible for their death? And the answer is Biden, because his job is to stop the fentanyl entry. But he doesn't do anything. Not only that, he encourages it because he allows the illegal entry. That makes him a murderer. Do you understand what that means? You can't fool God and say, well, he didn't murder the people. What are you talking about? If his job is to stop people from bringing on fentanyl, and because he doesn't do his job, they come in, he is called a contributory cause. In whatever degree, he didn't murder the kid, that's true, but that's a contribution. Like I said, God judges that degree. Do you have any idea what his judgment will be? Just on that alone, you see? And then the new ICE statistics. Do you know that they estimate, or however they know, 13,000 people who entered the United States have been convicted of murder. Murder! And they're now all over the United States and nobody knows where they are. And guess what? I would imagine it's very likely that they're committing murders again. A murderer convicted of murder. Then there's another 400,000 people, illegal entries, that have been convicted of some other crime, right? Even if it's not murder. It's incredible. You have any idea who's walking around the United States? Right. But this is Biden's responsibility. You're talking about sins and so on. We all know about the Venezuelan gangs. It's unbelievable. They're taking over apartment buildings and so on. And they will kill you. These guys are incredibly vicious. You know, why are they here? What are they doing here? They were never vetted by anybody. Yet, you know how much crime is committed by Venezuelans and the other gangs that are coming in illegally and so on? You see? And we don't even know how many terrorists have come in. Everybody says it's not a matter of if, it's only when that there has to be another 9/11. Why? Because there are hundreds of thousands of terrorists in the United States because of the illegal immigration. So I've told you one facet of what Biden has done, right? And guess what? Who's going to pay back for all the suffering, for all the people that were affected by the illegal entry? That's one. What about abortion? Biden is completely for abortion. You know what abortion is? And I asked once some doctor, how do they do it? You see, I don't even want to describe where they stick a needle into the kid's brain and suck out his brains. It's beyond belief. It's murder, because that kid is about to be born. Yet Biden is completely for it, and so is Harris. She's called the abortion queen. Who's going to pay for the murder of all these kids, right? Then you have all the city crimes. Check out New York, Manhattan. You know, people don't go on the subways anymore, right? Because they don't want to be mugged on the subways. You know, there are people walking the streets. Some guy walks over to them and punches them in the face out of nowhere. You see? Well, how could you allow this? This makes no sense. You see? So who is going to pay? And what about all the shoplifting? All the shoplifting in all the cities? Well, make sure that you have a calculator with you, and that as long as it's below $1,000, go right ahead and steal. What is that? How do you even do that? There's no deterrent to crime. It's not punished. So cops don't even stop these people anymore. But who's responsible for the social disorder, right? We're all looking at Biden, which is absolutely incredible. But what is the sin of Biden? Here's the problem. It's not a sin. It's unbelievable suffering. And what about the inflation, right? You have any idea? And now let me tell you something which you're going to find it hard to believe. Imagine somebody walks in who's trying to support his family. And he goes in and he wants to buy groceries. Takes a look at the price. And like they say in Yiddish, schapt him the hearts. All of a sudden, he gets anxious because he realizes I cannot afford half the stuff on my list. That's how much price. Do you realize that that's pain? That is pain. Who caused the inflation? Well, if he came in with a 1.9% and he jacked it up to 9%, who is responsible? Why? Because he hates Trump. So anything Trump did is terrible. How do you do that? You see, I mean, on the first day, I think he had over 80 executive orders against Trump. For what? Because you hate the guy? Are you crazy? Right? So who's the cause of this man all of a sudden becoming incredibly anxious, right? How much pain is that? But it's anxiety when he looks at the price bill of what these goods cost and he knows he can't afford it. And what happens when he receives his mortgage bill, his rent bill, his insurance bill, right? And he realizes, I can't afford it. Or a kid wants to buy a house, not a kid, but a young adult wants to buy a house, and he realizes, I can't buy a house if the interest rates are 7%. It's impossible. You see? So that's suffering. What is the suffering? That I can't survive this way. More than a half America live from paycheck to paycheck. And God forbid if there was ever some type of emergency, they'd be finished. I once heard a statistic, which is hard to believe, that at least 49% of Americans don't have more than $50 savings. That's what I once heard the statistics. You know what that means to have only $50 in your bank account for anything that occurs? You have any idea what the anxiety is? Of course you do. Because you live for this, you live through this nonsense. But who caused it? For what reason? Good old Joe Biden. But wait a minute. That means he caused unbelievable suffering, right? You don't think that suffering that he caused, God doesn't count at all? We're looking at the suffering of 330 million people in whatever degree it is. Well, who pays for that? You don't think God is going to look at the suffering needlessly of everybody, every human? Of course he does. But people don't realize that. They don't understand. And not only that, they're all advancing the LGBTQ plus, all right? That's the incredible decay of society, right? And what about transgender? And they want to take away the parental authority, right? You don't have to tell the parents. On the contrary, the kid can sue the parents as far as I know in California. You're not even allowed to tell the parents. Could you believe that these people have the gall to take away parental authority if they want to change the gender or the sex of their child? You believe this? This is unheard in human society, that this is what the country has become. Who's promoting this? Biden and Harris, right? This is what we see, right? What about your gas? Every time you stop at a gas pump and you're looking at high prices, right? It's the same thing. You're anxious, especially if you travel for your job and so on. Then there's other things that the America used to be what? America used to be the cop of America, of the world, right? Many people did do evil. Why didn't they do it? Because they knew America would not allow it, right? America was a tremendous deterrent in an enormous amount of crimes and catastrophes that could have been committed by many, many tyrants and dictators, right? Now nothing. Now you have the evil cockroaches coming out where they're coming out because they're not afraid of America. America has become the laughing stock, you see? You know how many people are worried about that? Where they realize that, wait a minute, without America, right? Who knows what this world will turn into? That's anxiety. That's suffering. Remember, every person is responsible for 1 nanosecond of suffering of another person. That's justice. And God knows the exact degree that you contributed, right? I mean, just as a classic example, Afghanistan. How does America leave Afghanistan with its tail between its legs? It's unbelievable. And it's not only the 13 people that died needlessly, because the guy or the sniper had this guy who detonated the bomb in his sights. He was waiting for the okay and never came. What kind of a competence in that? You see? And they left the world in tremendous danger because they left back $86 billion in armaments. That's suicide. And they gave back the Bagram Air Base. Who's responsible for these idiotic decisions? And that causes tremendous anxiety and fear among people. Who's going to pay for that fear that people have, that Biden committed? Just one classic example. You see? And what about the betrayal of Israel? Thank God America gave them some things. But how does America give money to Iran? You know how many people Iran killed because of the money that Biden gave them, right? Killing, right? It was Biden's money to Iran. They were broke in the time of Trump. You don't think God sees this? That means what Biden gave them in Obama enabled Iran, caused them, that's a cause in some measure, right, to kill October 7th. Not only that, what about the entire world? Would they have all their agents killing people or committing enormous evil, right? That's suffering. Who decides? Who is responsible for that suffering. And Iran is an enemy of the entire world. Everybody knows that. So how do these people give money to Iran to commit all this evil? You see. And what about all the suffering? It's absolutely unbelievable, you see. And not only that, what about all the anti-Semitism? Are they doing anything? Are they confronting all the colleges? Is that what Biden does? Is that what Harris does? Of course not. Yet this is a very serious problem. There are people that compare what's happening in America, right? They compare it to 1933 in Germany. They've never seen such a rise in anti-Semitism. Well, who's responsible for that hatred? Of course, the president. Who else? And so on. You see, that's what we know about Biden, you see. So even if you hate Trump, how do you do this? How do you vote for a man that is so thoroughly, I'm not even talking about the bribery that Biden took and his son from communist China, right? I'm not even talking about the bribery that's proven, how much money they took from China. You see, that's treason. So how do you vote for either him, and now let's talk about Harris, right? Say, well, I hate Trump. Harris? But everybody knows what Harris is. She's proven it in the last month or whatever, right? Just take a look at this. You talk about competence. What did she do for 6 years in the Senate? Nothing. What did she do for 3.5 years as VP, as vice president? Nothing. Not only that, she voted for everything that Biden wanted. In fact, and this is the kicker, they asked her, what would you do different than Biden? Because you're running on a ticket for change. She said nothing, which means she would duplicate and replicate exactly what Biden did. But Biden has caused unbelievable suffering to the American people. You see? So you know she's incompetent. She does word salads all the time. She never gives interviews because she has nothing to say. She's done nothing. Why would anybody vote? Because remember, a president of the United States basically is a CEO, a chief executive officer of a company, right? That's really what it is. And by the way, as an aside, that's why the one who should be president is somebody who has a business experience. Right, and not a lawyer. That's the mistake America always makes, is they make a lawyer a president. No, it should be a business executive that knows the bottom line. Right, because these are the guys who know exactly what to do and how to correct it. Okay, that was an aside. But all I'm saying is that, what has she done? Nothing. So they see in the last couple of weeks, she says nothing. Because what does she know? She's incompetent. You have any idea what Putin, if he ever meets with her, right? Putin, if he meets with her, or she, whatever, and all these guys, they're going to eat her for breakfast. That's what they're going to make mincemeat out of her. Because they see what she is. She knows nothing. You see? And forget about her ability to decide, and so on. So the question is, okay, you hate Trump. But why would you put somebody that's completely incompetent? And Trump has proven himself for 4 years what he could do for America. I mean, what are you going to answer to God? Because God is going to say, let me show you what you contributed to as a true cause. And he's going to give you a list. Does anybody want to face the Almighty God that knows everything? And he's going to show you all the suffering that you were responsible for, even if you didn't directly cause it. Of course not. So what are you going to tell him? Well, I don't like his character. Excuse me. He's not running for tzidkus. He's not running for righteousness or to get it, right? He's running to govern the United States adequately. You see? To help you and your family and so on. So what does it have to do with character? As long as he's not a character that won't corrupt his loyalty and his allegiance. Fine. Okay, so, so he goes home and does whatever he does. Cheats at cards. I mean, whatever these guys do and so on, What does it have to do with running the United States, And is anybody a tzaddik? Really? You know how many American presidents had scandals in terms of who they are? There are many books written on this, right? A president isn't a tzaddik. He's not a saint, as they would say in English. He's not a righteous person necessarily. Many of them are corrupt. They are incompetent, and they still become president. I didn't want to go into the roster of how many people there are and so on, you see. In any case, this is the problem, You don't realize if God charges you, how do you contribute to the suffering of 330 million Americans? And I will tell you what you knew, because I know what you knew. You can't fool me. And I would say, so when you tell him, well, I didn't like his character because he brags, he's too vile on the internet. He's always responding. Excuse me. Okay. But would that corrupt his ability to govern? No. He was president for 4 years. He did a magnificent job, He saved his country so many different ways. He confronted the foreign affairs and so on. China, he brought back so much manufacturing. I mean, I don't want to go through the list of what he did. We all know. You can easily check it out on the internet. What are the accomplishments of Trump in his 4 years? So how do you compare that to the character of either of these people, Biden or Harris? I mean, where is your logic? Yeah, of course. So when it comes to earning shares, you knew to vote for. You didn't care if the other guy was a saint, or he was black, or he was Asian, right? Or he was Hispanic, right? Right? Of course you voted for the guy who can make you the profit. So you're a hypocrite. So why'd you do this to the United States? What are you going to stand on? Nothing. But here's the problem. The problem is, like I said, in the old days, if you do a sin and you cause suffering, okay, it's to one person. A person can say he can live with the atonement of that one person. We're talking here about 330 million Americans. And what about the rest of the world, right? That's what the internet is. That's what an election is. Why are you going to answer that? You can't. And therefore, your entire eternity is endangered, right? That's what I'm telling you. Your entire eternity, Olam Habo, is threatened because of the amount of suffering that you have caused. People don't realize that. That's what they're going to face. You have no idea of what the great day of judgment is going to look like to so many millions of people. Because, God is going to look at them and he's going to indict every one of them, and they don't have a leg to stand on. Right. Because in their heart, they know they were wrong. So the only time a person can stand up to that accusation, if they truly believed Harris was incredibly competent, right? But if you vote for her because, now it's a black's turn to be president. What do you mean? He was president, Obama. I hated Trump. That's not a defense, you see. And therefore, in many ways, you don't realize the danger you're in, because the amount of victims that you will have contributed to damage is enormous. This is the problem. You have to be very careful. So therefore, please, you just take a look at what is happening and so on, Listen, you don't want to vote for Trump. Okay. You hate Trump. Okay. I'm not going to convince you that Trump is the right guy. I have my personal feelings. I think he is. But I don't want to convince you. Okay. So stay home. Don't vote. So at least God can't say, why did you vote? Because like Rabbi Eliezer said, you will be considered among the group of evildoers, even if you did nothing. Stay home. Do yourself a favor. You want eternal life? Do yourself a favor. Stay home. At least God cannot accuse you of joining the evil group or contributing to the suffering of 330 million people. That is my advice, you see. Now, I usually don't do this. I'm out of character, actually. I usually don't give a shear where I actually warn you about what's about to happen and so on. But I felt that, wait a minute, I don't want God coming to me and saying, excuse me, you knew what would happen because you are Baal Hashkafa. You learn Hashkafa. You know how I run my world. So excuse me, why don't you warn the people? What am I going to answer him? He's right. So I said to myself, I got to warn the people. Now, I did my job. You want to listen to me? Fine. But remember, you're playing around with your eternity, an infinite bliss eternally. That's what you're playing around. Because like I said, we live in a time that never happened before, where you get on the internet and you slander somebody, you can have 50 million people listen to that slander. You're finished. Because how are you going to undo all the lust and horror that these people believed? You won't. You see? And there's not enough time to reincarnate, come back, and atone for what you did. There isn't time, because the Mashiach is right around the corner. So please, for your own sake, stay home. If that's what you feel. Or you could say, hey, this guy has a point. If I was going to vote a company that has shares, right? He's right. I would never vote for the CEO that looks good, sounds nice, right? Or invites me to tea. What does that have to do with the company making profit? Nothing. I want to vote for the guy who he lives a little shady, but he's proved himself to be a phenomenal CEO, So I don't care if he cheats on poker when he goes home, or whatever, or doesn't take out his wife enough times. I don't care, right? Or whatever you consider not good, right? And so on, Or I don't care that he has a social site that he talks against people that, that criticize him and so on. Or I don't like his language. That's not the consideration here. What you need to do is what the person is running for, and that is to govern adequately, sufficiently, professionally. Somebody who has proven that he can govern the United States, and even more than that. We live in a very evil time. You don't realize how bad this time is. In Chazal, this would be the Memtesh Shari Tumah, 49 levels of evil. One of the great things about Trump is this, that he can defy evil. Many people cannot defy evil. In other words, they realize evil is wrong, obviously, and they won't practice evil, that's true, but they can't bring it down. They cannot defy. One of the reasons, which I've said before, that God has allowed the Democratic Party, which is incredibly evil, to do this to Trump, is to do what? To try to, try to either kill him, bankrupt him, degrade him, demoralize him, you name it, right? All the indictments against him is to infuriate Trump, to destroy evil. Because we are at that stage, you see? And therefore, he infuriated Trump to change, to defy the Democratic Party, right? That's one of the reasons why. That's the logic behind why Trump went through an unbelievable, experience of a government. The whole government was arrayed against him. The CIA, the FBI, the IRS, the Department of Justice, the Secret Service. It's beyond belief how they've arrayed the entire government against this one man. The miracle is he survives. And that is an act of God, because no man could survive. No man. And he's 78. Where does he get the energy to run around? You think about it. Could you run around for the last half year? Every day another stop, right? How much sleep can you get? And not only that, he doesn't have a teleprompter. He's in incredible health. Why? Because God wants him to run and to win. Therefore, I decided that I have to give this year as a chesed to tell you what you're about to enter and what you're about to be involved in. Be very careful, because the amount of suffering you can create, even your vote isn't the deciding vote, obviously not, but it doesn't make a difference. Like Rabbi Eliezer said to his son in the will, don't sit with any group of evildoers, even if you don't do anything, because the sitting itself is a contribution. It's an endorsement. You have to be very careful. And the last thing you want is when heaven looks at you, all the angels, they're going to look at you and say, you're an evildoer. You're part of an evil group. Is that what you want? God forbid. So be very careful. You don't want to vote for Trump? That's your business. Stay home. Don't vote for Harris. Because if she turns out to be, which she will turn out to be, if she wins, I feel sorry for every one of you out there who voted for her, because you will have contributed to the evil and the suffering, the agony, the anguish, because she's anyway a communist. She's going to change this country in a way that you won't even, your head can't even spin to realize what she will do. I'm not even talking about the fact that she wants to raise the taxes on everybody, the capital gains tax. I'm not going to go into the list and so on. This can all be checked out, You will have endorsed and contributed to enormous amount of suffering, even if your vote isn't the deciding vote. And you never know. It's so tight, it may be the deciding vote. You see, that's how tight this race is and so on, So be careful. I wish all of you tremendous hatzlacha, and just think about what I've said. And even if you disagree with me, ask yourself, why do I disagree with him? Is what he's saying, does it really make sense? Please, for your own sake, for your family's sake, and for the sake for your own eternity. Thank you.